Let's get to the Dallas Mavericks and the end of the Mark Cuban era. Now, I predicted this the second this sale was made that he'd be done within 2 years. Corey?
It sounds like you're wrong.
It sounds like it's going to be sooner than that. Yeah. That is a fair point. What have we learned, and who have we learned it from?
Well, Brad Townsend.
Got to give him credit.
And he also added this, by the way, on Twitter. I just want to throw this out there. Reminder, as you read specifics of our wide-ranging interview with Patrick Dumont, money is power. Power in this case might initially be publicly portrayed in an understated way, but this level of power was never going to be idle. And here is an example of the power and the money. Forbes net worth estimates DFW's Big Four sports owners, Jerry Jones, at $14.5 billion.
That's a lot.
Mark Cuban is estimated at $6.2 billion. The Gagliardi family, $3.7 billion. And Ray Davis, $2.9 billion. The total of that, Kevin, $27.3 billion. The Adelson Dumont family, $33 billion. So their estimate is
more than all the rest of
the teams here. So just take that with you as we go through this conversation.
They should just buy all the teams.
They could.
They could. But will they?
So do you want me to there's a lot of structure here, but basically it's a Q&A.
Yeah.
The first question was, how will the Mavericks basketball and business decisions be made? Can you give a sense of the flow chart? Dumont starts, he's our new governor. He starts with a lot of butt kissing of Mark Cuban.
Sure.
And it makes sense. Look, man, I don't want to kick this guy as we're doing this situation, but here's the point.
That'll happen a little later in the question.
The way the structure works, just formally, is that I am the governor. The league wants one person to speak to, so that's me. But I intend to get the benefit of Mark's experience and his success, so working with him is actually good, and I see how, and that's how it is. Nico Harrison is the GM. He is the head of basketball operations, so we all get the benefit of working with Mark, but there's one GM, that's Nico, and then we have Cynthia, who's running the organization, great leader, dynamic. I think that's great management there. So the best of both worlds, we get to work together with all this stuff. Next question. Mark has said on record that he would be the alternate governor. Is that accurate? Remember, Kevin, he just said, I am the governor, Nico is the GM, Cynthia is this. We get to work with Mark. Which means
owner.
Yes. We get to work with Mark. Mark has said on record that he would be the alternate governor. Is that accurate? I don't want to get into the alternate governor at this time.
Oh, dear.
It's not something that I've really spent a lot of time on, but I will tell you how we intend to operate. Question comes back. Hold on. Can you clarify that last part? How I just described to you, independent of title, is how we will operate. Relationships are important. Experience is important. I think it's all these Mark Cuban contributing, but ultimately, Nico is the GM, and I'm the owner. And there was another series of questions about how, Nico and his work with him through the training process, and he was like, "Look, man, Nico was great. He did a really good job of this. He's very talented."
But not as much fun with the semantical debate about whose power.
But Mark Cuban said, look, I'm in control of all this. Dumont comes in and says, I'm the guy that speaks for the Mavericks when it comes to NBA stuff. Nico Harrison is the general manager making decisions on our basketball team, and Cynthia Marshall is running day-to-day operations within the organization. That's very clear from Dumont, who is, got $33 billion to his name in this conversation. So his power is that. Now, that sounds to me like this whole idea and mindset of the flow structure doesn't involve Mark.
Yep.
Because as maybe as the way that we've always had him and Jerry Jones and these guys running that structure, it sounds to me like Mark is a consultant on a business that he has money invested in. It sounds like he's a consultant to a bunch of guys on, hey, look, if y'all need some of my experience, I'll lend my experience to you, and people that I know in the NBA, I can send you in the right direction. But it sounds like the structure is business, and Mark Cuban's over here.
And what do you frequently see with mergers or whatever like that? The further you get into it, the further that person gets away. Because I could see a scenario in a year or two where Mark's like, hey, have you considered this? And they're like, we did that 9 months ago.
Yeah, and I think I think Mark Cuban will still be at the majority of home games. And I do think at times he'll travel with the team and you'll see him behind the bench cheering on. But in a way, this makes it sound like, and I do think this is honest by the new owner of the team, is Mark is a fan like you guys are. He does have a stake in this team, and he can be in the meetings and he can listen to what Nico has to say and Jason Kidd, but they go through me. Mark can't go talk to the New Brooklyn Nets and go make a trade and say, hey, I just did a deal. We're doing this. You're like, no, you're not. You're not doing anything. You own a minority part of this team. And in a way, why am I drawing a blank? The guy who used to own the Frisco, he might still own the Frisco Rough Riders.
Chuck Greenberg.
Chuck Greenberg.
That's who he is.
Well, remember when Chuck went outside of the structure and maybe tried to get Cliff Lee after they made their best and final offer and Cliff still said no? It's like, dude, you don't have this power to go to fly to Arkansas and talk to Chuck Greenberg. Like, we got to get rid of you now.
They literally said, hey, you did something that's not part of this group. Here's your check. We'll see you later. Like, they literally wrote him a check and said, you're done now.
I'm wondering how Mark's going to stay within this structure because he's a guy that does not like maybe this type of structure, but he needed to sell a lot of the team. For some reason, he needed to sell this team. We can theorize on the reasons, but it wasn't just for fun. It was he needed to sell the majority of this team. And so now I look at this interview and I go, wow, we need to really talk about, I'm sorry, Mr. Dumont is what I'm going to call him because I forget his first name already.
Sounds
Patrick Dumont. I need to really start learning that name because I don't think he's going to be Mark Cuban. I don't think he's going to be Jerry Jones, but he's going to be Ray Davis.
Yeah. That's what I feel like.
He's going to be the guy. And Mark Cuban is a huge fan of the Dallas Mavericks and owns a minority stake in the Dallas Mavericks, more than Magic Johnson owns of the Washington Commanders. Mm-hmm. But he's now Magic Johnson with the LA Dodgers. He's now Magic Johnson with the Washington Commanders. He owns more. I totally get it. And he's been the face of this franchise, or one of the faces. Dirk was really the face forever, and now it's Luka. But he's been a major part of this organization since 2000, and now I have to start turning my brain to Mark has nothing to do with the trade deadline. Mark has nothing to do with the draft. He is just like me. He's a fan of the team, but he does get to be inside the building listening to the meetings.
The moves that the Mavericks made at the trade deadline here, they were very creative with some of the way they were like, we got to go get some draft compensation and stuff like that. We got to work some things around so we can also benefit, but also, and this is, everybody keeps saying this, look to the future of this organization with the Gafford addition. Like, that's down the road with Luka. It's keeping these guys together. I'm more fascinated with the conversations between Dumont and Nico. And what his message was to him. Look, go build us a winner. You're now doing the job because we pay you to do this job. Go build us a winner. You got to figure this out, but this is your job now. Nobody else is going to take the credit for it. Nobody else is going to take whenever things go bad, nobody's going to take that for you either. So I am very curious how that conversation is and where they stand on that. And from the interview, Kevin, where at the very end, he does say, he was great. I think he's a great talent. We talked about a variety of matters. I feel like I've worked with him for over a decade now. It's a very natural thing, and he's a great talent. I have complete faith in him. So maybe Nico's about to build something without somebody else interfering in the process of it all.
Look, I do not think that this is a bad thing at all. I appreciate everything that Mark Cuban brought to the Mavericks. I appreciate that he brought a championship to the Mavericks. But I also think that the game had passed him by in terms of, or either that or he was trying to do too much with talent evaluation. He just wasn't good enough at it. And he needed to be a different part of this organization. And if that means he's still like kind of the public face and their number one super fan, I'm all for that as long as he's staying away from basketball operations.
I'm with you. Mark Cuban means a lot to the Dallas Mavericks franchise and getting that championship in 2011. Absolutely. Now, he had nothing to do with Dirk and Nash and Finley. Like, that was all done before he bought the team. But when they needed to trade for Jason Kidd, he stepped in as that thing fell apart because of Devin George and figured out a way to get it to work. He called up Keith Van Horn. He said, hey, you want $4 million to be a fake NBA basketball player? And
he said, yes.
Right. So, I mean, there's things that Mark Cuban did that were very good and helped lead the team to the 2011 championship. But he has, for a while now, really struggled with basketball. He can't figure out how to be better than the majority. And so, luckily, in a way, something happened in his life, whether he fell out of love with basketball, and I don't think he totally fell out of love with basketball, or he wouldn't be going on the road and going to all the games and sitting, on the first row right next to the Mavs bench. So I do think he still loves basketball, not as much as he used to, but I think there's other things in his life that have kind of maybe pushed towards, hey, I need the money and I don't love this as much as I used to. And so now we have a new owner/governor of the Dallas Mavericks that it's him and Nico.